teacher executed, and a cold-blooded setup in mall parking lot. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's story will leave you speechless. Imagine being arrested for murdering a woman you've never met, with DNA evidence pointing straight at you, only to realize the real killer might be someone who shares your face, your blood, and even your name. This isn't a crime thriller. It's a real case out of Georgia that shocked investigators, tore apart a family, and tested the limits of forensic science. On an ordinary summer evening in 2008, a beloved teacher and military reservist named Janai Coleman was gunned down in the parking lot of a local mall while waiting to pick up her daughter. What started as a routine homicide investigation quickly spiraled into a complicated web of lies, misidentification, and a chilling twist involving identical twins. You're about to hear how justice almost punished the wrong man, and how one tragic moment changed everything. The nightmare began in the parking lot of Gwinnett Place Mall, Georgia, on July 18, 2008. A 911 call described a woman bleeding heavily near the transit station. First responders rushed to the scene and found a woman suffering from a gunshot wound to the chest. She was barely clinging to life. With no ID on her, she was treated as a Jane Doe and transported to the hospital, where she tragically died within an hour. A bus driver, the only eyewitness, told police she saw a man exit a tan sedan, argue with the victim, and then calmly shoot her before dragging her out of the car and driving off. The vehicle was missing. The case immediately raised red flags. Was this a targeted killing? A carjacking gone wrong? Crime scene techs recovered few clues. Just a pool of blood, a shell casing, and scraps of clothing. With no murder weapon and no immediate suspect, investigators scrambled for leads. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, a woman named Janai Coleman identified the victim as her sister, Janai Coleman, a beloved schoolteacher, Navy reservist, and single mother of 3 adopted girls. The question now was, who would want her dead? Janai Coleman wasn't just another name in a police file. She was a woman who gave everything to her family and community. A dedicated schoolteacher and military police reservist, Janai had just returned from training and was preparing to start her own preschool. She was raising 3 adopted daughters and supporting her pregnant daughter as they awaited the birth of Janai's first grandchild. The news of her death sent shockwaves through her family. Investigators, now with her identity confirmed, began probing deeper. They turned first to her inner circle, looking for any signs of trouble. Her daughter's boyfriend, Patrick White, was quickly interviewed. He had seen Janai earlier that day when she dropped off her grandchild, but his alibi was solid. Then there was Joel Yabira, a man Janai met in the Navy, who spoke fondly of her, but was stationed in Japan at the time. As detectives searched for a motive, it became increasingly clear. Janai had no known enemies. But there was one crucial lead: her gold Dodge Stratus, the car stolen by the killer. When it was finally recovered in a shopping plaza days later, it held the first major breakthrough: a cigarette butt and several fingerprints that didn't belong to Janai. And that would eventually crack the case wide open. Weeks turned into months as the investigation stalled, until the Georgia Bureau of Investigation called with a game-changing update. The DNA on the cigarette butt found under Janai's seat finally came back. It matched a man named Donald Smith. He had a criminal record and had previously worked at a seafood restaurant not far from the crime scene. Investigators believed they had their man. But when they brought Donald in for questioning, something didn't sit right. He denied everything and pointed to an astonishing possibility. He had an identical twin brother, Ronald. Since identical twins share virtually the same DNA, it was possible the match wasn't his at all. The plot thickened. Detectives began a deeper dive, retrieving surveillance footage from the convenience store near the murder scene. They showed the video to Donald and to his family. And one by one, relatives, including their sister and parents, identified the man in the footage as Ronald, not Donald. It was a stunning twist. What began as a DNA slam dunk was now a complex case of identity, deception, and betrayal. And if Ronald was indeed the man on that footage, it meant an innocent man had almost taken the fall for a crime he didn't commit. As pressure mounted, Ronald Smith was finally brought in for questioning. At first, he remained quiet, visibly shaken, but unwilling to say much. Detectives showed him the surveillance video, the same footage his own family had identified him in. Still, Ronald hesitated. But when investigators mentioned his brother Donald was sitting in jail for a crime he didn't commit, something inside him cracked. During a break outside the station, Ronald lit a cigarette, the same rare brand found in Janai's car, and slowly began to unravel. Moments later, back inside, his voice trembling, Ronald finally broke. He admitted that the shooting was an accident. He claimed the gun had a hair trigger and went off unintentionally during an attempted carjacking. According to him, Janai had been sitting in her car waiting to pick up her daughter when he approached. After a brief confrontation, the gun discharged, hitting Janai in the chest. She managed to stumble out, cry for help, and collapse, while Ronald took the car and fled the scene. The confession was both heartbreaking and horrifying. Ronald insisted he never meant to hurt her, but intentions didn't matter anymore. A woman was dead, a family was shattered, and a man had allowed his own twin brother to face the consequences for months before finally coming clean. For investigators and the community, the confession brought resolution, but not peace. Following Ronald's confession, authorities swiftly released Donald Smith and dropped all charges against him. Ronald, now facing murder charges, initially pled not guilty. But the mountain of evidence was undeniable. His confession, the surveillance footage, the DNA, and his family's confirmation. During the trial, Ronald attempted to walk back his confession, claiming that it was actually his brother who committed the crime. This desperate reversal stunned the courtroom and further damaged his credibility. After a brief deliberation, the jury returned a guilty verdict. Ronald Smith was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison plus 25 years. For Janai Coleman's family, it was a bittersweet moment. Justice had been served, but the pain of losing their mother, an educator, a military police officer, and a loving woman would never fade. Her daughter Lakeisha expressed the unbearable weight of knowing her mother was gone while her killer still got to breathe. The tragedy left behind deep scars, not just for the Coleman family, but also for the Smiths, two brothers torn apart, one by guilt, the other by betrayal. In the end, the case served as a haunting reminder that even when justice is done, the wounds of violence can linger for a lifetime. Janai Coleman's life was marked by service, compassion, and devotion to her family. Her tragic end, delivered in a mall parking lot by someone she didn't even know, left an entire community shaken. Though justice eventually caught up with Ronald Smith, no verdict can erase the pain her daughters carry or bring back the warmth Janai brought into the world. Her story is a painful reminder of how one senseless act can ripple through countless lives. As we close this case, we remember Janai not for how she died, but for how she lived. May her memory never fade.